Hi, Michelle here. Welcome back to one of my favorite chapters, accountability. So here we talk about accountability. Another word that we use for accountability is responsibility. So it's about taking responsibility for ourselves and our actions. I think we've heard that before, right? But this is what's so important about this program is that we use the reflection piece to think about those things. A lot of the times we know we should have been responsible for our actions, but because we never really think about it, we kind of just like, whatever. Anyways, so here I use the example in the book with when I was playing basketball and we lost a game, I'd be so upset. And then after the game, what usually happens, people want to say, good game, they want to congratulate you, things like that. But a lot of the times I was so upset when we would lose that I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I would almost take out, well, not almost, I would take out my frustration of losing a basketball game, which of course it's a team sport, but take out my frustration out on my parents and I don't want to talk right now. But it was understanding that I had to take responsibility that for what just happened had nothing to do with my parents. They weren't in the game, they weren't making the calls, they weren't the referees, they weren't any of these things, right? So I had to reflect back and think why was I taking things out on them? So understanding also what are ways that we're taking our frustrations out on others as well that are happening every day, and they're not responsible for any of the actions, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your actions, right? And so this is one thing that it's a constant learning experience with accountability and having to take responsibility. Also recently I was feeling overwhelmed and I was frustrated, and it wasn't that I was frustrated with other people, even though sometimes it's I don't want to talk right now, or I don't want to do this, but it's really the frustration from myself. So I had to reflect and ask myself, why was I feeling frustrated? I was yes, I have things that I wanted to get done, but I also chose to go to social events to hang out with people or friends and things like that. And I had to take accountability of that. I didn't have to go do those things. I chose and I made a choice to go do those things. So who does the accountability or the responsibility fall back on? Me. It falls back on me. So it's understanding what are some areas that I need to reflect on to take responsibility for my actions. And then when those things happen again, I'm better prepared and I'm reminded, because I did some reflecting, that I don't want to take myself there. I don't want to feel emotionally drained or overwhelmed, things like that. So I have to learn from my actions. And so for me, taking accountability is so important, so that we take responsibility and we just own it. Responsibility is just owning it and being truthful with myself, being truthful with the other person, and just telling it how it is. Being truthful really is about being accountable, right? Having to look at myself in the mirror and saying, Michelle, this is what you did to allow this to happen. And sometimes that's hard, because why? It's a lot easier to blame other people, right, when things aren't going our way. And so it's easy to put the blame on someone else, but here we're going to put it back on us. And it's not necessarily blame is what we're doing. It's reflection and saying how can I be better? How can I improve? And that's what the focus is on with the accountability chapter. So I know accountability can relate in every area, constantly, every day, whether if I'm late for something because it's oh, well, I decided to sleep in, oh, I decided to finish watching that show, or whatever it is. There's so many things that we can take accountability for every day, but when we do it, guess what? It's just being truthful and honest with ourselves and acknowledging hey, do I want to get better at this, or am I cool with just staying the same? All right, now for the workbook piece. I love the workbook piece because it really allows us to go a little deeper in reflecting on accountability that is happening or that has happened in our life, right? And so what I love about this chapter is that it allows us to go deep, but we also might find there's some hesitation with the few of the exercises, I'm not really ready to acknowledge myself with that particular experience, right? So there's hesitation, or we act like it never happened, whoop, out of my mind, I'll pick another one because I'm not ready to go there. I'm not really ready to be accountable for that one. But understand and remind the students too that are participating in the program is that this isn't about causing blame. This is about being responsible. And this is your journal. This is your time to go deep. This is for your growth. Your reflection is for your growth to be the best person that you can. And when we just own up to our truth, there's really nothing else, somebody can say at that point. Because if you're owning it, you're saying, yes, I did. Okay. And now I'm going to be better because of that. And it's like, when you tell me that, I'm like, perfect. I support you, and let me know. I can't keep on saying like, well, you did this. You're going to be like, I know I did. So that's the beauty of reflecting and being truthful. And so be able to go deep and know this is your personal space. This is your journal. This is for you. This is for your growth. This is not for anybody else that you have to, share this with. If you choose not to, this is for you. This is for your growth in this particular section of accountability. Stepping out of our comfort zone. Whoo, that's a big one, right? So being able to step out of our comfort zone is so important, but guess what? In the beginning, it could be so scary, right? Because you're talking about going into a place of the unknown. Wow, I've never done that before. I never tried that before. Maybe I never even thought to look at it that way. And so when we're looking into our comfort zone, we're thinking of all the things that can usually go wrong. It's fear-based, right? And it's understanding like where I'm at today, and seeing like, okay, what are the possibilities? I'm going to use that word again, possibilities. Not just focusing on what is going to go wrong, but focusing on like, well, what can go right from this experience. And it's really about finding like, what are some times that I did step out of my comfort zone, and how did that make you feel? So we've all experienced things where we've stepped out of our comfort zone before, but maybe today we forgot that we even did those things. So when we reflect back and we're like, oh wow, I did step out of my comfort zone that time, it's a reminder that guess what? You're so ready to do it again, and to let yourself fly, and to let yourself take, action towards the greater good for yourself, right? Your growth, your joy, right? We can do those things. And so that's why we reflect on those things, because sometimes we forget, and we constantly need that reminder like, okay, I've done this before. And that's why we write it down. That's why we're writing it down in the workbook, because we can go back to something and it's a reminder. Because if we keep it in our head, guess what? Sometimes it flies away and we forget. But if we write something down, I can go back to it as a constant reminder of how great I am, and the belief and the confidence that I have in myself. And then go back to what? Your pledge of allegiance to yourself, your affirmation, to reminding you of who you really are. Treasure yourself and shine.